Hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Witt-Doering, and I want to just add a disclaimer at the start of this video about the realness of PSSD. So you're about to hear from a woman who's suffering from this condition, and it has absolutely ruined her life, essentially. And this is a real condition. I know a lot of you may not have heard about it before, but over the last couple of years, it's entered the labeling for all the SSRIs and the SNRIs in the European Union and in Canada. So this is a late-breaking side effect, which has only recently gained recognition. I hope you find her story interesting because there's not a lot out there, in this format of interviews. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Witt-Doering, and it's my pleasure to have Rosie here today, who's going to be talking about PSSD, post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. It's a condition that she developed, and there's something that's all the more shocking about her story is that, when she interacted with the mental health system, they really didn't believe her and essentially they threatened to send her into a psychiatric hospital on an involuntary basis unless she agreed to take medications, which is really messed up. The other thing that I love about Rosie is she also hails from my neck of the woods, so I hope you're excited for some Australian accents. So, Rosie, welcome. Thanks for coming on, and please go ahead. Tell us what happened to you.
Thank you for having me on here to tell my story. Basically, if we're going in chronological order, I just want to backtrack to like 2017. I have always had like OCD. I feel like it's kind of a part of my personality. But anyway, in 2017, I was in my final year of high school. It got really, really bad. And I was given fluvoxamine. And I just want to say, like, straight up, I took that drug for 6 weeks and I did not develop PSSD. I didn't have side effects. I didn't have any issues with it at all. Took it, it did nothing. And I just thought like it was like just like a placebo. So I just kind of forgot to take it. And I was just like, oh, I was not doing anything. Like, you just kind of forget because I was just like, oh, whatever. And I ended up seeing a psychologist and really like pulling myself out of that. And I would say, like, I hate to say that I'm like cured from OCD and anxiety because I feel like these things are just like, they just are going to come up. Like they never fully go away. But yeah, I managed to completely like recover. And then fast forward, obviously I'm from Australia and like the Melbourne lockdowns were horrific. So I just missed my friends. I couldn't do anything. I just was not coping at all. So then I was encouraged to take, and this was, I had like some depression, anxiety, just like what everyone had during that period. I just felt extremely isolated. I was encouraged to take Lexapro. I was told that it's the best one, and it's the one that all the young kids are on. Like, it's really weird now that I look back at that, and it's
like that's like how like your doctor said, it's like all the young people are taking this. This is the best one, like kind of that.
I think not so much my doctor, but it was just like even just people around, like people around me being like, oh, you got to get on Lexapro. Like it's just such a colloquial like thing to do. Like it's just become like such a normalized thing. So I was just like, oh, okay, like I didn't want to.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's really entered into the culture, and I mean, all of this, fighting, let's fight the stigma of mental health, which is all well and true, but along with that, they kind of shove in the idea of, these drugs, they're safe for everyone, and don't even hesitate and just go for it. It's this kind of cheerleading people onto medications.
There's even like hashtags on TikTok of like live, laugh, Lexapro. And like,
oh God.
like the stuff that a lot of like, I would say like young girls have probably come up with it, if anything, or like even like hashtag Lexahose.
Yeah,
like, that's like,
God,
like
it's so
really
it's so
to,
disturbing.
Like, I don't think like it's so I was just like, oh well, a lot of people take this like it must be safe. I didn't want to be on anything. I was really against taking meds because first of all, the first one didn't work, and also I just was like, I've come out of this before. Like I don't need like this medication. I've had a really hard time before. I come out of it. Like I just was not coping though with the lockdowns. I was just getting dragged and dragged and dragged. And then I had like heaps of people like shout their positive experience at me. So I was like, yeah, well, it must be like, it must be really helpful. And then I just innocently went to the doctor and he put me on Lexapro within I'm not even joking, like half an hour after taking that first pill, I knew something was wrong. Like it just, the way I can, and I use this analogy to explain this emotional blunting that I experienced, like almost within, an hour of taking it probably. Do you have like those Apple AirPod headphones that have the noise cancelling setting?
Yeah.
That's exactly what this emotional blunting was like. It was just like, chung, and then everything just went, like, I just lost the atmosphere of the room. It's like not depression at all. It was just like this complete like blunting of my atmosphere. And I just thought like, oh, this is like great. Like I don't have anxiety. But then I was just, I think like, I was like, oh, hang on. I don't have anything else. Like I can't function like this. And it's essentially been like that ever since. Like I've just never really come out of that. Like it was just like, something just like blunted my whole brain. Went back to the doctor. Well, he was a psychiatrist and he was just like, I was like, I have no sex drive. I am like literally unable to orgasm. I can't feel my like private parts. Like this is like, is this going to go away? And he was like, yeah. Like after 8 weeks, like people will like level out, they pop up. I don't know all these terms he was using. And I was just like, okay. So I was just
so
like,
he was pretty much saying like, stick with it, you'll get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was like, stick with it. It'll go away. People have this at the start. So I was like, sitting there and he has like all his like credentials on the wall, like Melbourne University, like, all of the
yeah.
So I was like, this guy like knows what he's doing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put my trust in this. He was very professional as well. And then I went back and I was like, okay, this is like, I'm a resilient person, but this is not normal. Like what I'm experiencing, my ears are like ringing. I've got like really high pitched ringing in my ears. My vision is covered in static. It's just covered in shit. Like there's like little silver lines everywhere. My motion, like everything just was just completely off. Like it was like I've been like drugged, which I had, but obviously like it felt like a lot more than like something that would be like a fun.
That's crazy, and so you had, I mean, that static that you're describing is visual snow, which is a pretty severe side effect of the medications, which is not normal. It's not something if someone was experiencing, you'd tell them that it would go away in a couple of weeks. I mean, if you heard that, you'd say, stop the drug and let's get you in to see a neurologist.
No, it was just like, oh, that's everything. I was like, I have no sex. Oh yeah, that's normal. And I was like, I have no emotions. Oh yeah, that's normal. And it's like, I have visual snow. Yeah, that's normal. And it's like, all right. Like I was just like going with his opinion because that's what we're told to do, like, is to put your trust in. And everyone kept saying to me, like my family, my friends, trust the professionals. But I was just like, I don't know, something's really not right, but I'm just gonna stick it out. And then basically I went back to him and he basically was like, this is what he said to me. And I look back at this and I was like, I don't know what went through my brain to believe him. But he was like, oh, sometimes it means that the chemicals in your brain haven't evened out enough. So if we up the dose, then they tend to like even out a bit more. So maybe we need to switch you from 10 milligram, up to 20, and then you'll start to feel better.
Okay.
So I did that.
Okay. All right. What happened? Yeah.
It just got worse. It was like I couldn't cry at all. I was like, as I said, it was like the blunting, like was so severe. I have never, ever, ever experienced this. Like it's so profound. It's almost like it would be the same as like going deaf. Like your whole senses just completely, like someone has short circuited my brain. Like it just was like the power went out. And I was just like walking around like completely aimlessly, like this is not normal. So I went back to him and he said to me, so this is, and I'm paying him. He charges like $400 a consult. This is getting expensive. Like I'm going back to him. I'm like this. I'm not coping. Like you said that this was going to get better. I'm feeling worse. Like what should I do? And he just basically said to me, I really think that you're just extremely anxious about the side effects because you have been for a long time, and I really think you should up the dose. Right. And I was just like, after that, I just left and I was in shock and I was like, I need to, and that's when I like kind of was like, I need to get off this. Like I need to, I'm not functional. I can't function at uni. I can't work properly. I can't feel, like you can't live. And then, he was just like, he was no help at all.
Well, the whole thing, you know, everything you were describing, he was just saying either one, you know, this is your underlying depression, or two, you know, this is just your OCD. You know, there was no kind of assessment of like, hey, you know, maybe this drug is not working for this person at all. And, you know, that was completely missed.
Yeah, it was almost like it was just like, even when all of the evidence was there, it wasn't just missed, it was like actively dismissed. Like, no, it can't be the drug. It can't be the drug. So, like, you know, this, and the excuse was always this works for other people. So, like, you're just imagining things, I guess. But yeah, I ended up, after that, I was so upset because I was just like, I was struggling so much at this point. Worse than I was just like, this is a whole new, like, whatever depression I had before was not even a problem. Like, I just look back and I'm like, all right, I need to taper off this. I knew about tapering. I didn't really, only because I had done my placement in the psych ward and for nursing, because I was studying nursing. I still am studying nursing, but I had just finished my mental health placement. So I knew that people, when they came off these drugs, had to taper, but I didn't really know. I wasn't even given any instructions on like the importance of tapering. But yeah, basically I just did my own taper of like maybe 2.5 months. I just went from like 20s down to 15s down to 10s. I had some withdrawal, but not from what I've heard other people describe. But it just, yeah, I basically stopped the medication and I was like, okay, it's been like 5 days. And then I messaged my cousin who's a pharmacist and she's like, oh yeah, like the medication is out of your system in a week. Like you should see a psychologist if you're still having these problems.
And so are we talking like second half of 2020 now? Like, because roughly.
Sorry, I've gone a bit off. So
no, because you said you started during the lockdown and then you got up to 20, and so I'm just assuming.
So I started it in August 2020, and then I took it I was on 10 milligram for a bit, and then I was up to 20 as I was instructed, and then by the time I finished my taper, it was August to December 7th. I just took my last pill of Lexapro, and then all of these symptoms didn't go away. So now I have visual snow. Like my vision is just covered in static. My ears still ring. And I've kind of just gotten used to it. It's just like if I'm in a quiet place where there's no like right now I can hear the fridge, so it kind of like gives me something. But if I'm on my own completely, I can just hear like high pitched ringing and like a hissing noise. I have, my skin feels numb over my whole body. Like I just feel like completely dehumanized, and I just was continuously told, just wait, it'll get better. Yeah, sometimes it just, it just takes a few months to get, and I was like, why are people being put on these drugs and not being told, you do realize if something goes wrong, it's going to take years to heal? Like I was never told that it's going to take months to return back to normal after I started. Otherwise I would never have touched these drugs. Months, let alone I'm in my 3rd year now. Like, but yeah, it's just really worrying because it's been so long, and I feel like over time, like, you try supplements, you try this, and like I just feel like I've gotten worse and worse and worse over time. And yeah, now I'm just at a point where I'm like, I just feel like this is so not a sexual problem. Like this is completely messed up my entire nervous system. Like I do not feel like, I feel so depersonalized. I'm not here. Like it's just so bizarre. I feel like I've gone into like a trap door, and I've gone through like a parallel reality, and it's like I'm here, but it's like I can't get back. That's what this drug has made me feel like. Like it just, and yeah, it's just bizarre that this can just persist for so long. And then obviously the longer it's gone on, the worse it's got. And I'm still, every time I've reached out for help, I feel like I've just been people don't understand about PSSD.
What's it like living with this, and I guess dealing with a society and a medical system that has no idea what it is. Talk to us about that.
Like for me, it's like you don't live with PSSD. Like you just exist. Like you're not living. Whenever this happened to you, your life was put on pause. Whether or not it ever restarts will be like if you ever get better from these symptoms. But you don't live. Like I just like aimlessly go through the day, just like ticking off tasks, trying to find a way of how I'm going to get out of this. Like your whole life, it's like you've been trapped and you're like, I need to get out. Like I need to get out of this. And that's why my whole life has been now, had like a whole path and trajectory where I was going. And that's just completely done a 180 because I'm just trying to do everything I can with the PSSD network as well to just try and find a way, try and find people that will take this seriously, recognize this, and give us like the proper research and hopefully one day treatments and that we require. But until then, like you can't live. You can have relationships, but it's like you're literally operating, you're stuck in a glass box. Like I cannot even explain how much like everything's there, but you just can't, your brain can no longer like hook onto things in the environment properly emotionally. Like even music sounds like scratchy and it's like coming from further away. Like I can't feel the bass going like whoomp, whoomp, whoomp in my head anymore. It's just like I can hear it, but it's, my thoughts don't feel like they're inside my head. My thoughts feel like it's like a transparent image. It's like, I don't know, a few meters away from me. It's just not, I'm not in here anymore. Like I don't feel like I'm in the driver's seat anymore. So it's just like, it's literally just torture. You just feel like you're being just enduring unrelenting torture.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to Simon, he said it was like he lost one of his senses. He said
It
that,
is, yeah.
we landed on sensory pleasure because he said the same thing. He goes, music which I used to love, which would give me pleasure, I'd put it on in the car and I'd feel good when I'd go on these long drives. He goes, I just sit there in silence now because it does nothing.
It's so hard to explain as well. Like it's like trying to explain to someone like, obviously like I've never touched acid, but it's like when people try to explain to me this is what it feels like to be on acid and I have no frame of reference to what that person is talking about. So they explain to me like, oh, shapes and this and this and this and this, and it's like unless you've experienced this personally, you can't understand that it's, I've analyzed every angle of my consciousness and my psyche, and I've come to the conclusion that this is 100% a hardware issue or like a chemical issue because there's just no way that like you just can't. Yeah, it's like someone's messed with the wiring and it's just changed things.
And I mean, another thing I've heard is like, the sufferers will, they'll hug their children or they'll hug their parents or their spouse and they feel nothing. It's just
Nothing.
Where you would have that, that sensation of pleasure and affection, when you would do that, it's just gone now.
It's so weird. Yeah, there's no, it's like, and I think the most frustrating thing is like I'm mentally there and I want to experience these things because I know how good these things, like, being like, feeling love towards your family, listening to music, having sex, like all of these things make you feel good. And it's like, you can do all these things, but they've just ripped the pleasure out of them. So it's like, it's just like, there's just, your life just becomes like, your life's over, essentially. If this happens to you, like, I say this all the time to the other sufferers, but I just don't understand how something can literally drop a nuclear bomb over your brain without doing any, like, noticeable damage that we've come across yet. But it just feels like, my whole nervous system was just nuked. And it was like short-circuiting, like the power just went out. And it's just
because you would think, right, with the severity of your symptoms, walking around in this dissociated state, 24/7, you're like, why isn't my mind more like shot to pieces? Like, why can I still think clearly?
Yeah.
Why isn't this global cognitive devastation, to the point where like maybe I can't even walk or something like that, based on the severity of, the symptoms in the other parts. But, you talk to David Healy and he has these theories. He goes, maybe it just has to do with certain, nerves, the touch fibers and things like that, where you've just taken out, you've completely ruined one component of the nervous system, which is having all of these effects, whether it's the visual snow and the numbness that you feel on your body and, that lack of sensory pleasure. It's like whatever part of the nervous system that is, I mean, that's the one that's been isolated and damaged.
Yeah. And it's just like, your life is literally like, I just can't believe that something can actually kill you whilst you're still alive. Like you like when this like I haven't had a good day since this happened to me. Like my whole every day, like it's not something that, you know, I think sometimes when people think of PSSD, they might think like, oh, people might have some sexual problems, and then they just forget about it during the day. Like it consumes 24/7. Like it consumes you 24/7. Like it's just constant all day, every day. And it's not even like I'm ruminating. It's like the symptoms are like clouding my ability to think clearly. And also they're just blocking me from being able to experience like any tactile sensation properly. Like all of it is just it's unbelievable. Like my numbness in particular, like my genital numbness is so bad now. It just got worse and worse. Like after I stopped it wasn't that bad, but over time it's progressed. So which is like really, really weird. And then certain supplements that you take can, you know, I've never reacted to anything in my life. I've never had any issues with any drugs, any supplements. I'm not one of those annoying people that just is like, oh, I've got an issue with this all the time. No, like I don't react to anything. But after I took Lexapro, like I can't even drink coffee without feeling more numb, or like so many things. Like it's almost like I've just become like hypersensitive to everything, and I was never ever 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 like this before, ever. But yeah, like it's just gotten to the point where my numbness is so bad. I have no sensation when I'm peeing. Like I pee, if I couldn't hear my pee hitting the water and I couldn't feel my bladder contracting, I wouldn't know. Like I would, like that's how bad it is. It's like completely. That's why I'm seeing a neurologist, because it's the sensory issues are so profound. It's like it's just unbelievable that like the most sensitive part of your body can just go completely numb, and no medical tests can pick it up. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
And let me ask you this. Do you still, I mean, do you feel like raw emotions like anger and things like that, or is everything being flattened into just like, you know, one kind of mood state?
It's just it's just like I don't have a mood. I wake up like there's no mood. I don't have a low mood. I don't have a high mood. It's just like I wake up, and how I feel when I wake up is going to be the same as how I feel at 1 p.m. is going to be the same as how I feel at, you know, 3 p.m. is going to be the same as how I feel. There's no emotion, there's no emotional, there's nothing. Like it is literally like the pharmacological version of like the Chinese water torture, because it's just constant. Like if you look at it from the outside, like you might see someone with PSSD and think, oh, I could deal with that for a day. And then like, you know, as the drips go on, it's making you go mentally mad, because you just can't, I just don't feel like, it's just scary. It's scary. It's really scary. Yeah. And it's
Sounds
like
terrifying.
it's just like I just want to feel normal. Like I wake up every day, I say to my mom, like, I just want to feel normal. Like I just want to rewind to before I took this, and I'm just like normal. But even like now, like there's just nothing. Like,
And so it's been approximately, I guess, 3 years now, you know, maybe a little bit less. And it sounds like instead of the trajectory getting better, I mean, it sounds like it got worse and now it's stayed worse. I mean, is that,
I
or
would
is
say
it,
like,
yeah.
I don't know if it's stayed worse or if it's still getting worse, because, you know, a year ago I could still feel when I peed, and then now it's nothing. Like it's, you know, I haven't changed anything. Like it's just every day. Like I just noticed that it would feel less and less and less, and then like now it's just like I just feel like I'm literally just like dissolving into thin air, because there's nothing. And it's just like at the same time I have all of my like, how is this happening? And I have all of my cognitive faculties. Like I'm able to express myself. I'm not like, it's just almost like it's like a sensory issue. Like your senses are all messed up. Yeah, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, one thing that drives people through the day is, you know, it's like that motivation. You know, you know, I'm going to get up and do this because you know, maybe you know, I'm afraid that if I don't do it, I'll get in trouble, or you know, maybe the pleasure of succeeding. That do you find that you struggle with motivation, or you've had to learn new ways to make yourself do things because, like you said, you have no mood. You just exist in this kind of neutral place. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's no motivation for anything. Like my only motivation is like I need to fix this, or like I can't live like this anymore. Like I guess it's just like it's just the motivation to try and do everything I can with the PSSD network to try and get myself out of this, because I feel like I'm literally trapped inside my own body, and it's fucking terrifying. Pardon my French. It's just like really terrifying, and it's like, yeah, like I don't have, in terms of like everything about me though, like everything that made me me before PSSD is just completely like gone. Like all of my hobbies, all of my interests, it's just like all just gone, and it's just like I feel trapped and I need to work with these people to try and get out. Like that's all that goes through my head all day, every day. And it's like, this is not living at all. Like this is not normal for a 23-year-old to have to experience this. Like I had such a good life before this, and I just wish I appreciated it. But like, yeah, this is just hell. Like there's no motivation to do anything. Like you just wake up and just aimlessly just do random things, tick off tasks, and hope that tomorrow there'll be something from David Healy or someone that will have news that's positive. Like that's all we live for now. It's just that. Yeah.
And so take us forward now to your interaction with this psychiatric the consultant that nearly sectioned you, or if you don't know what sectioned is, it's being put into a psychiatric hospital against your will. Tell us about this interaction you had recently.
So he did section me, like he actually did. Basically, I was having a lot of problems at home with this. As I said, like at the start, I still had some emotions. It wasn't like it was extremely blunted, but it was like I was just really scared, I think. Like I was just really, really frightened. I'd get really like, I'd have like a lot of arguments with my parents and stuff about this. Like this literally just wreaked havoc in my house because I just wasn't functioning. My mom would be like, you need to get up, you need to do stuff. And I'm like, I can't, like I'm not functional. Like, you know, I know what it's like to be able to will yourself over the line, but this is different. Like something's not right. And then, like eventually like our arguments and stuff at home started getting really, really bad. And then my mum's like, I think you need to like go and speak to, you know, like a psychiatrist and stuff again. And that was what the doctor told me to do as well. So I was like,
well, let me ask you this before we go there. Give us some insights into how this puts, you know, strained your family life. You know, what, like how when, you know, you got this injury, how it like created just ripples through it and messed it up. What was it like for your parents dealing with you and you with them?
I think the most frustrating part is that like at the start, they didn't understand that I'm right. Like they would just always think the professional's telling you that that's not real, so the professional is correct, not realize. And then that would just make me really upset because I was like, hang on, no. Like I'm being serious. My mom's like, you know, my cousin's a pharmacist and she's telling us like, oh, you can't do that. You know, I've taken Lexapro before. That doesn't happen. And then my mom's like, see, like you're overreacting. And then that would make me really upset because I was like, no. Like I'm not overreacting. Like this is really, really bad. But yeah, basically it just completely wrecked my family relationships. I've managed to like obviously rebuild them, and I am so lucky. Like I have the best parents in the world. Like I'm just really lucky with that. And I've got an amazing, like supportive family, but at the same time, like it definitely like, what did
it take for them to believe you eventually?
I think just time for them to realize she hasn't I think I think after starting stuff with the PSSD network, like working with the others and stuff and being really, really serious about this, I think it clicked for my parents and they were like, this is serious. Like this is a serious medical issue. Like they're really like a lot more understanding now. But, you know, if you're a parent and you're being fed information from professionals over, you know, a child that you're being told your child is just like delusional and has no idea what she's talking about, then, you know, they're kind of like, oh, maybe, you know, we should trust the professionals and their advice and stuff like that. But I think it did take a lot of time for my parents to actually understand, like, that this is really, really serious. Like they knew it was serious, but they didn't realize this is a serious, like, medical issue. Like this is not because of how I'm feeling. Like this is actually something has happened from that drug interacting with my nervous system. Whatever's happened, I don't know, but yeah.
You know, and I hesitate to bring this up, but I do know that you know, within the PSSD community that suicides do occur because of this.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, you know, I think could really get someone there is, you know, not having a support system that believes you at all, you know, and that second guesses you and sides with, you know, the experts, and almost kind of, you know, pressures you into getting, you know, getting on that track where you just get given more and more drugs for, you know, treatment resistant depression or something like that. I mean, that could really, like, unless your family stops and they believe you and listen to you, I mean, that's a one-way street to complete isolation. And, you know, and I would get why someone would give up, you know, when they lose.
Same. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I was very close to that, in fact. But yeah, like it's, they have been, I don't even know how many people would have ended their lives because of this. Like, people that wouldn't even know that what they have is PSSD, that would just think, this is like, they wouldn't even know what it is, and they just think this is a me problem. And, you know, they try and reach out for help. There is no help. Like, we need medical help, and there's none. Like, there's no even understanding of what happened. And yeah, I've never ever been closer to ending my life than until this happened. And to be honest, like, I've never even you know, even considered that as like an option. Even when I was like depressed and stuff like that, I always was like, it'll get better, like things will get better. Like, but this is just like, because your life is over. Like, if this happens to you, your life literally is over. You can't have relationships. You can't listen to me. Like, you kind of just feel like I'm an 85-year-old in a hospital room that's just like, you know, I've lived my life and I feel really tired now, and then that's it. Like, that's how a lot of people feel. It's just like, I'm just finished. And it's like, that's so abnormal. Like, I have to remind myself, I'm 23. Like, I'm 23. Like, this is the complete opposite to vitality. I'm supposed to be in the prime of my life, like partying with my friends, and I'm literally stuck in this really abnormal state. It's just insane.
I think you've just described what it's like to live a life without emotions and without joy, and, you know, anticipating, you know, good feelings that would come with doing activities, and it's all gone.
That's exactly, no, you hit the nail on the head. There's no anticipation emotion. Like, there's no, oh, I'm anticipating, I'm excited to go on holiday. I'm, you know, excited to have sex. I'm excited to do this. There's no anticipation. So, like, everything just stops. And then it's just like, you're not living at all. Like, I feel like I haven't lived in so long. Like, it's just insane.
And so so you had this situation with this with your family. You guys were kind of getting into it, and then they kept on pressuring you to go see a psychiatrist. Tell us what happened.
Basically, the plan was to have like a family meeting, because my situation was so bad at home, and I was just ringing my mum every 2 seconds for, like, just constantly asking, like, am I going to be okay? Like, I was so scared, and even to this day I still am, but it was just like, I just knew like something wasn't right, and then to be told that you're fine and stuff, and it was getting out of hand, and I would get angry when my mum wouldn't be there, because I was just like, you made me take this, like, you know, it wasn't my mum, but it was just like pressure from kind of everyone. It was just so normalized, just get on antidepressants. Like, everyone was just trying to minimize the risk so much, just make it such a normal thing, and then something like this happens, and they're like, well, don't come to me. And I've noticed that as a pattern. It's like, you know, whoever tells you that you should take these drugs, like, they are the first ones to run for the hills if something goes wrong. And that's what I was really frustrated with, because I was just like, how come it's so easy for people to encourage people to get on them, and then when something goes wrong, they're like, well, don't come back to me, I don't know. And that's what I was getting angry about. So I went to a psychiatrist review with, like, you know, my parents, and basically the doctor there was like, oh, the medication's out of your system. Like, you stopped taking it. This is like, you stopped taking it 6 months ago. This was maybe 2 years ago now. They're like, you stopped taking this a long time ago. It's you know, it's not, he basically said, it's not possible for, you know, side effects. Like, that doesn't happen. And then I was just like, I knew that it, like, I just knew. And then, he basically was like, I was getting really, really just like scared and like concerned at this point. And then, he basically pulled me into another room with like another mental health nurse, and was like, what do you think about, taking Lutida? And I was like, do you mean like lorazepam? And I was just like, I was just thinking in my head of like, the people in the psych ward that we were putting on lorazepam. I was just, why the hell do you want to put me on lorazepam? Anyway.
Because she's psychotic, clearly, that's,
I just had like, like mental flashbacks to that, to like the behavior of people that, and like the delusions and hallucinations that they were experiencing to like need to require that drug. And I was just thinking like, why, like I'm not taking lorazepam. And he was like, it's a really, really good drug. Like it can really help you. It's going to calm all of this stuff down. And I was like, calm this stuff down. I was like, I couldn't be like any more blunted, and you're going to put me on something that's going to like just completely erase the last bit of dopamine that I have left in my brain. Like
not to mention, causes permanent movement disorders in 5% of the people per year, so tardive dyskinesia, so your mouth twitches. I mean, it's nuts. Yeah.
And I was just that was just completely ignored, and they were just like, I basically like the way I perceive the situation is they're like, well, he basically then said to me, if you don't take this on, like these like what's been happening lately with your family and everything, it's like getting really bad. If you don't take this voluntarily, I hate to do this to you, but I'm gonna have to do something to make you take it involuntarily. And that's when I just flipped out and I was like, no, see you later. You know what? This review is just like a waste of my time. I didn't come here for this. I came here to get help. You're not helpful. Like, see you later. And then as I went to like leave, they were like, you can't leave. And I was like, I beg your pardon. And they were like, no, you need to come back here and talk to us, please. And I was just like, here we go. So I went back in and I spoke to them, and they were just like, like you're so, they just kept telling me. And I was like, really upset at this point. And like, I had like, I don't really cry at all anymore. Like I don't really feel my emotions if it's like extremely overwhelming and intense, but I was like teary at this point and really upset, like extremely upset. And I was angry because I was like, how dare you do this to me? Like I was just so angry that I've been harmed. I've come back to you because like, I wanted like the anti-venom. I was like, this is completely blunted me. Can you please give me something to bring me back to life? And there was just no consideration for how I was feeling. He basically was just like, we can't let you leave and stuff. And then it started to escalate, and I was like, you're not doing this to me. And then he was like, oh, and then I was just like crying. I was like, no, I'm not. And then it got really bad. And every time that I would get more upset, I feel like he was using that as ammunition to like prove his point that, see, she is really distressed, she's delusional, like rather than actually like it was almost like I feel like all my feelings were just being manipulated against me in that situation. And then that's when he was like, yeah, okay, let's call the ambulance and the police. And I was really upset, and I was like screaming at my mum. I was like, please do not let them give me, like they're gonna give me stuff. My mum didn't understand this, but I'm just trying to explain to her they're gonna give me something, because I knew about PSSD at this time and I'd done a lot of research into it. But I was just thinking these guys are going to give me something that is completely contraindicated for someone with my condition, and it's going to completely wreck my life more than it already is. And sorry, stop. And basically I called my friend straight away, and she gave me like really good advice. And she was like, just whatever you do, just stay as calm as you can and just go in there and just sit down. Sorry. She just basically was like, just stay as calm as you can and just go in there and just try and explain your situation to someone else. Luckily I knew, like, as I said, like after doing that placement, like about second opinions and stuff like that. So when I was sectioned, I straight away went into the psych ward, and I was just like, I want a second opinion before anyone gives me any medication. And like, I want a statement of my rights. Like I want to have a look at everything that I'm entitled to, like all the, like, just, I need to see like what my options are at this point, because I'm not taking this rubbish. I'm like, I'm not taking this. No. Like, and basically, they basically said to me that when I got in there, they just said, we can give you a second opinion, but it'll have to be in a couple of days. So they're just giving me benzos in there to calm down. And I didn't, just like, okay. Like, it's just, the whole thing was just like, as I said, it's just a train wreck. And then,
I was going to say, I like horror movies, that's my genre. And when I think about what happened to you, like you walked into a horror movie. I could not imagine like
Yeah.
something more like how is this my life happening? I like, one, you're arguing with your parents and they're not believing you, and then you go there and they start threatening you, saying, one, you can't leave. We don't believe you. And essentially, what we're saying is, we're going to go and petition a judge, so we can start drugging you against your will with antipsychotic medications because we just think you're nuts. And I
I
mean,
know. It's like we'll just throw you in the loony bin. That'll solve it.
yeah,
Rather than
yeah,
like, hang on, like like there's just way too much like, yeah, that they just always this is what frustrates me the most. And I think a lot of PSSD patients would have the exact same scenario is like, and obviously not yourself because you're a nice, understanding psychiatrist, but
oh yeah, yeah,
a lot
sure,
of psychiatrists that we've come across,
yeah,
like, would much rather blame the patient for the symptoms rather than take responsibility for like what the drugs they're giving them are causing. And that's like, this was just like an extreme scenario where like they were just so adamant that their drugs don't do this, that they'll make up something about me that wasn't true and put it on that and put me in danger of, as you said, 5% of people get persistent movement disorder. And then
yeah.
let's just fast forward as well. Like, I'll just finish this story because I feel like I'm rambling, but basically, yeah, I explained my situation to the second psychiatrist. She was like really lovely. She was a lot more understanding. And my parents only told me this recently, but apparently after my review with her, which was like 2 years ago, she called my parents and she was like, I don't know why he wrote psychosis on her. Like, I'm not seeing that at all. Like, I think there's been like a misunderstanding, like something's not right. But basically, she was like, well, I don't know what the laws are, but she was like, I can't give you a transfer to the community unless we know that you're taking another medication. And she was like, you need to treat your anxiety and you need to treat. And then I was like, I told her the thing and I was like, I can't have anything that's going to cause like the sexual side effects in particular. That was like extremely distressed about at the time. And then she gave me a pamphlet for buspirone, mirtazapine, and valdoxin. And she was like, none of these caused sexual side effects. And I was like, well, I know the first two do because I've seen them. I've seen people on the
Mhm.
forum. Like, so in the end, I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to take valdoxin and just hope for the best because, and then they were just like, it has no effect on serotonin and melatonin. And I was like, okay, like I just was like, I need to agree to something in order to be able to get out of here. So I took valdoxin and that drug had a complete paradoxical effect on my sleep. Like, I know that's supposed to help you sleep, but I felt like I had done like really hardcore stimulants. I was just laying in bed. I slept like I was on it for like 3 days whilst I was in there, and or 2 days probably. But yeah, I basically felt like my eyes would just shake open. I was just like laying there, just trying to just think about how am I going to get out of this psych ward? Like, this is massive. And yeah, my eyes would just shake open and I just look at the wall and I'm like, just clock watch. And then, they'd come to me in the morning. They're like, how are you feeling this morning? How are you going? I'm like, I feel so good. Like, thank you so much for looking after me. Like, I'm feeling way
Oh my God,
better.
you straight up had to, act to get
Yeah.
out of there. Just
I was
pretend
like,
that you were,
yeah, I was like,
yeah.
I was like, I'm really sorry that this has been like a big misunderstanding. Like, I just feel so much better. And like, yeah, you guys have been really great. How do I get out of here? Like, I just like, yeah, it was
It's so
really,
it's
really,
it's like
yeah.
so twisted and dark, I mean,
Yeah, it's just really like, and I was just, yeah, I remember my dad picked me up and I got in the car and I remember I was just like silent for like so much of the car trip home because I was just thinking like, I like, sorry to like, this is a lot of information, but I'm going to have to top myself because I've tried to reach out for help. I've tried so many avenues. My GP doesn't take me seriously. Psychiatrists don't take me seriously. I have an option of either living this life that's just like hell and torture or like just not being here at all. And I was like, this is just so like, this is just so messed up. Like, my life is so good and it's just been completely just destroyed by Lexapro and no one believes me. And I'm just thinking like, if only there was like, I don't want to not be here. Like, I love my life. I love my family, but like these symptoms just make me like unable to interact with the world properly. And yeah, it's just really bad. I just feel like I'm constantly trapped behind glass, and I'm just, yeah, there's no help. There's nowhere for us to go if you have this.
Yeah. Well, I want to take a moment to actually show the medical records which you shared
Yeah.
before, because I think, I mean, I you know,
Oh, they might have my name on them. Oh no, okay, all good.
yeah, no, I'll go down
Okay,
here. So,
thank you.
and so it looks like just first name. So,
Okay, no, it has
okay.
my address at the top. I was like, please don't show the world where I live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, a couple things you highlighted here. I mean, the main highlights are, Rosie has been fixated to a delusional intensity around her sexual side effects. And then firm fixed delusional belief about medications causing side effects, impression, delusional disorder with significant health anxiety and OCD and comorbid depressive symptoms. It's just like not even considering like for a second that this is actually like a legitimate side effect. I mean, essentially you're written off as just being hysterical.
Yeah.
That this was a manifestation of your mind. And yeah, I mean, that's like so grim.
It's just so wrong. And as I said, like like I'm just one person. Like I can't even explain. And I got out. Like I was lucky. I had horrible side effects from valdoxin for a while, but after I stopped taking it, it went away. But like some people have been harmed even worse. Like they couldn't get out of the antipsychotic situation, and that they probably some of them may have even ended up ending their lives. Like I can't even explain just how dark this situation is. And like a lot of us are just young, healthy people. Like the whole thing is just so wrong. Like on every level. Like it, yeah.
Check this out as well. I'm just bringing this up because
Yeah.
again, I think it just like adds to just how like sick things can get. That you can buy this like patch that you could stitch onto your bag or something from Etsy. That's like, live, laugh, Lexapro. I mean, it's that whole like let's cheerlead everyone onto taking these medications. Just tell them that there's no risk at all, and just I don't know, obviously, leading to these devastating problems. So
Yeah. And I think the thing is though, a lot of people don't even know that this can happen, or if they do hear about it, they just think it's like extremely rare and like yeah, a lot of people just don't. They're just so out of touch with what can actually go wrong with these medicines, and it's really really scary.
Yeah, no, Rosie, I haven't kept up with the TGA. I know that at least the EMA now has a special warnings and precautions for persistent sexual dysfunction. I mean, the language could be better, but at least it's in there. Same with Health Canada. Any whiff of that in Australia, that they're at least recognizing it and putting it in drug labels?
No, and I've actually, speaking of which, I should have sent you this email before, but I actually did go to the pharmacy. I went to Chemist Warehouse recently and I asked them for a leaflet of Lexapro. This was like a month ago, so not that long ago. And there was absolutely nothing on that leaflet that would have even alerted you to the fact that side effects could even persist after stopping the medication. There was just nothing. And speaking of which, I was told to report my symptoms to report my reaction to the TGA, and also because then I reported it to Sandoz, and I put in a report to the TGA. I never heard anything back, so there was like no follow-up or anything. But then when
Sandoz,
I reported it,
they get in touch with you? Yeah.
So Sandoz, so then I spoke to a pharmacist, and this is what irritates me so much, is because I spoke to a pharmacist for like I don't know, he called me, I spoke to him for like half an hour on the phone. I explained to him in detail the exact symptoms that I have from taking Lexapro and how long I've been off it for, and that I haven't taken any medication, but like it was like the drug induced these symptoms that I now have to like live with, which is like not livable. And basically he said to me, after 30 minutes of our conversation, he's like, oh, well, maybe you just need to try a different one. They all work different for different people. And I was
It's
like,
like,
is this the reporting system? Like, do they realize that young people are ending their lives? Like, this is so serious, and it's just being written off as like, it's just not like it's not important. Like, it just,
but
it
it's
makes
also
me
like not their
so,
role. I mean, it's like you're here to do an analysis of an adverse
yeah.
reaction, not encourage me to get on a new medication knowing nothing about me. Um, so even something about that smells like really off, in terms of like what they were doing.
It was just like, he just said, like, if, sometimes it takes a few goes to get the right one. And I was like, I feel like the trigger was already pulled on the second go. Like, this has killed me. Like, this drug has, like, like, even that in itself, like, oh, it can take a few different drugs to find the right one. And it's like, yeah, like, you don't, like, if this happens to you on the second one that you try or the third one, like, there's no coming back right now. We don't have any solutions. And then even to know that I've been harmed and then just dismiss it and be like, oh, I'll just take something else. Like,
Yeah.
get over it. I've literally, yeah, as I said, I've exhausted. I have tried everything in my power to get in touch with as many people as possible, and it's just been like, sorry, like, yeah.
Now, tell me this, Rosie. I mean, has any, I know a lot of people in the community, they'll try different interventions and medications and supplements and stuff like that. Does anything help, or at least in your experience?
Nothing helps. Like,
Yeah.
nothing touches it.
Okay.
Literally, the only thing is, like, I've, yeah, gotten worse over time, and I don't know if it's interventions or just progression of whatever this disease is. But like, honestly, in terms of windows, like, no, I don't get windows. Like, nothing touches this. It's just really, yeah. Like, I've tried antibiotics. I've tried so many things, and so yeah, nothing
Yeah.
nothing touches it.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the PSSD network. What are you doing with them at the moment? What are the goals of the
Mm-hmm.
organization and all of that?
So myself and some others kind of got to a point where we've just had enough. We just don't, like,
Hmm.
it's wrong. It's just straight up wrong that anyone is like, you shouldn't have to suffer in silence about this, especially because it's a sexual problem and people are like, if you're on social media nowadays, if I made a post about how I've struggled with depression and that I've decided to take medication and I'm feeling so much better, I feel
Oh
like I'd be,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
congratulated, like, you're a hero, like, go you. But if you go on social media or anything now and you say, look, this happened to me with this drug and people need to be careful, it's like, well, you shouldn't be scaring people out of taking these drugs. And it's like,
What's that about from your perspective? I mean, I have my own thoughts on it, but what
mm-hmm.
what do you think? Where do you think all that bias comes from? That
I
you
think
know,
it
you,
comes from, like, this deep sense of, I think people are honestly just deeply disturbed that they're potentially taking something that could do this to them. Like, I reckon, because,
Mhm.
yeah, and I also think, like, people are really scared that these drugs are going to get taken off the market and that they're not going to be able to cope without them. I don't know. Like, maybe it's, I don't understand, but people are just really like, I also have been, like, I think also, as well, I spoke to one of my friends, she also has PSSD, and she made like a really good point about this. But like, when you take a drug, like, it becomes part of you, like, it literally dissolves into your body. So I feel like some people take it as like a personal attack on them. Like, if you criticize a drug, it's like you're criticizing a part of me. I don't know. I just think that could be the psychology behind some of it, but it's really, really bizarre that people, like, yeah, it's really, like, the psychology behind it is really, really weird that, like, people are, like, just trying to stop us from just talking about our, like, experiences with this. And even on forums, like, the antidepressants forum is like heavily moderated and heavily, like, the moderators on there, like, if you post about PSSD on there, like, they'll go in and they'll try and, like, minimize it. Like, there's this one person on there that I think he or she, like, runs the antidepressants forum, and, like, constantly will just try and, like, it's rare, it's nothing, it's, and it's just like, we can't even get this information out to, yeah, to people without people just being like, no, your experiences are rare, go away, we don't want to hear about you. Like, and that's like, well, I don't
Yeah,
know
I
what
bet
I'm
you they
supposed to
they
do.
they write you off as someone who has an agenda, some anti-med agenda, where you just like, you have some kind of like personal belief that, pull yourself up by your bootstraps or something like that. But it's like, I mean,
But
it's
even
so
if
not.
like how would
Yeah,
that even be the case though? If I took meds,
I know, but they
like
don't
that
care.
doesn't make any sense.
They just kind of cast you as this, this Scientologist,
Yeah,
as soon as you start complaining about these things, you're someone who's, you know,
yeah,
who's just trying to shove their opinions down other people's throats, and they have an agenda, and you're dangerous. That's the other thing. You're a dangerous person because you're making it harder for people with depression, to access treatment. And how dare you do that? When you're just trying to say, hey guys, if I knew what I knew now when I started the medication, I would have thought really hard before getting on it. And you're trying to share that, and they want none of it.
it's just I think like I don't like you. Even if someone's depressed, you can't deceive someone about what you're giving them, what's going into their body, and just like sugarcoat it and just like I don't care if the person's like extremely depressed or people should not be deceived, and like it's totally like illegal to not tell someone about the potential harm. Like what's happened to us just is the most violating thing I have ever experienced and continue to experience every single second of every day of my life. And as I said, like I don't that I've just come to the conclusion that like some people are just not going to understand, and like I can't change that, but we can't suffer in silence and just tiptoe around the fact that our lives have been completely
Yeah.
ruined just to make
Well,
someone else feel comfortable. Like I can't function in my life. We need help. Like we're not here to, and that's another thing is like we're not calling for the cessation of SSRIs off the market. Like we want research and treatment for PSSD. Like I don't really care what anyone else's agenda. Like my agenda is to get my life back. And same
yeah.
with everyone else that has this. And like it's just crazy how many like obstacles and hurdles we have to jump through just to get help. Like it's insane.
Yeah. So, um, I mean, my goal is to make sure as many people hear about this as possible. I'm going to probably do an
Thank you.
introduction to this video where I just, put it in their faces, that this is now labeled risks, in the EMA in Canada, and that it's breaking, just so, there is no doubt that at least, authoritative medical bodies have now, actually finally come to accept that things like this can happen. But
Even then, yeah, it's just I
yeah,
think that the issue is with that though is like I see a trend of doctors being like, okay, yes, it can happen, but it's rare. And then it's like there's still going to be so many people thinking that it's super rare, that it will never happen to them. All right, it's fine. I'll take an antidepressant. It will happen. And they're not even being properly informed. Like, I actually reckon this is really like we don't have any proper like prevalence
no, there's
statistics
nothing.
to be able to properly inform someone like this is how common it is. And like yeah, there's so many doctors that I come across, especially on Twitter, that are like, I've given these to tens of thousands of patients and I've never seen any of this. And it's like, how would you know that? Like, you probably never asked. Like, I don't know.
Hmm.
I
Or
think I
they
don't
don't
see it.
recognize it.
Yeah,
Someone comes in and, they're too nervous to talk about the sexual dysfunction. So they just say,
yeah,
oh, I feel nothing. And they go, okay, treatment resistant depression. Let's sign you up for some antipsychotic. Um, so,
yeah,
well, Rosie, let's bring this to a conclusion now. So,
mm,
where we started off, and I don't know if we recorded this, is, you're in the US now because you can't find anyone to help you get, a diagnostic on this. You've just done some biopsies for small fiber neuropathy, which seems to be
yeah,
a promising lead in terms of, where the site of the pathology may be. And I guess at this point,
yeah.
you're waiting for your results, and maybe with this piece of evidence, if it turns out that you do have damage of the small nerve fibers to a significant degree, I mean, at least that will, I don't know, maybe be more compelling to people if you could say, hey, look, actually, here's the lesion. And
I just
yeah,
my biggest fear that I'm hesitant to even. say this because I know some people have tested negative to this, so I don't know if this is going to lead me anywhere at this point. I can't say that, like, you know, there have been some people that test positive, there have been some people that test negative, so I just thought I'll just get it checked. Like, I am at my wit's end. I can't deal with this anymore. As I said, like, I don't know. It might come back completely negative, and then I'm going to be back to square one, and I'm going to be like, well, where do I go from here? Because I don't know. But at the same time, like, I just feel like, I just thought I'll just check whatever I can and do what I can to just try and, because I can't believe they don't do biopsies in Australia, but that's the issue.
And from your experience, you know, being well integrated in the community, what's the prognosis like for something like this, just from the people that you talk to?
I don't want to say that people don't get better, because I have heard of people having like windows and some people recovering, but then I think every single case is so different. Like, given what I've experienced, like, I have had no improvements in the past 2 years and 3 years nearly, and like, I have progressively gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I don't like the look of my prognosis, but I just want to know, like, what happened to my body, because I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't really know, you know, from like a treatment perspective, if that's it. I don't even think that's possible for me, just given what I'm experiencing. But I just want to know what happened to my body. Like, I just want to know now. Yeah,
fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Rosie, thank you for sharing. I mean, what really is, like, I mean, it's a horror story, you know, is when I think about kind of what happened to you at the psychiatric hospital, and you know, for being brave enough to come and talk about this. I think it's going to make a huge difference for anyone else that unfortunately finds themselves on a similar path, you know, to just know that they're not alone, and you know, that the things that they're experiencing are normal, and maybe even hopefully for the parents of this other person, so they could watch someone who's not that other person share a very similar story and hopefully believe them sooner.
Yeah, people just, like, people just don't make this up. Like there's no merit in telling people that your genitals are numb. Like, there's no, you don't get sympathy for that. Like, people don't really care. If you wanted to lie about your health, like, you'd pick something else, like, not this. People don't. Yeah, people, and also, like, people know their own bodies. Like, people know, like, how you're supposed to function sexually. Or some people don't, because they didn't grow up with it, because they were put on these drugs so young. But like, it's just such a profound change that, like, there's definitely something physical that's happened, but it's just finding out what it is. And that's what us as the PSSD network, like, we just want to raise awareness for this and get as much research into this condition as possible to try and find out what this drug did to us. Because as I said, like, a lot of us took SSRIs and were completely fine, and then took them again or came off them and got this. So I don't think there's any, like, I think it's honestly just by random chance whether or not you're gonna.
And that's the most. I mean, that's the frightening thing about this. You know, there's no risk factors that have been identified to say, hey, you're high risk for this, or you're going to be okay. When you take that medication, I mean, there's a chain. You know, there's a bullet in the chamber, and you essentially spin, because I mean, you don't know whether that's going to happen. And you know, in your case, within the space of, you know, essentially like a day or a week or something like that, I mean, you'd already had neurological damage.
It was just like, it was just instant. But that's what our whole lives now. We're just trying to find solutions to this and just try and work out what happened to us, because we just, like, we don't want to be left in the dark anymore. We want to know what happened to our bodies. Like, we have a right to know. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, Rosie, I want to say thanks again, and you know,
that's okay. Thanks for having me.
You know, sending you my best. You know, I'll be thinking about you and just hoping you're recovering. And please reach out at any point. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bye.